Hello and welcome back to a brand new series of Health Code. It's been a while, been away for a bit. We've got some exciting guests coming up for you throughout this series on everything from nutrition to fitness to psychology, mindset, even a little bit of spirituality and more. But my first guest today is somebody I've never spoken to, and I'm really looking forward to getting into this conversation. Mark Ennis is based in Ireland. He describes himself as an online health coach, helping people that have suffered with obesity, anorexia, and generally just wanting to get themselves into decent shape and take charge of their health. Now, Mark's journey to becoming a health coach is not a particularly traditional one. He didn't always have an interest in fitness and wasn't always taking the best care of his health. He suffered with anorexia himself. He suffered with obesity himself. And as we know, personal lived in experience can sometimes be the most valuable experience you can then give on to somebody going through exactly the same thing, because you can relate to it. You can understand it. You've not just read in a textbook that this is what to do, or read an online paper and thought, actually, this is what I'm going to teach or preach. You've been through it yourself. So you can put yourself into the shoes of the person that you're trying to help. So I've always found in my life, particularly in health, people that have been through the kind of things that they are trying to help you with generally have really, really solid advice and solid principles, and they can relate to the position you are in. And just in my little bit of experience, they can help you much more get closer to the goal that you are trying to achieve. So in this conversation, we're going to chat about diet. We're going to chat a bit about Mark's background and the issues that he went through himself, some of the commonalities he sees with the clients that he works with, and he's going to share some advice on how his ideas can help you in your journey to supreme ultimate health. So let's dive into tonight's conversation. Okay, Mark, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Jaymie. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's going to be an interesting one for our audience because, as I said in my intro, your journey into what you're doing now wasn't exactly a traditional one in the sense of, um, you know, always being into your health and your fitness. You had a very personal experience that's led you into where you are now. So, can you give our audience a bit of background into what your life was like before you were doing what you're doing now?
Okay, so this all started off at a very, very young age. This started off, like I'm 53 now. This started off when I was around 12 years of age. So I grew up with an eating disorder, didn't know what an eating disorder was. I was one of those kids that was severely overweight. I would have been always picked last in the sports team, never had any confidence to speak to girls, anything like that. And it really, really got to me. Like really got to me. I didn't like being last on these sport teams. And then I used to get bullied an awful lot as well about my weight. And I used to always speak to my parents about it, but my parents always said to me, "You'll end up losing when you're older." But as I said, it got to me. And then one day, I was walking home from school and I was really upset. And I walked into my local shop and I saw this magazine. And on the front of the magazine was this bodybuilder. And I was just looking at him and I was just mesmerized. And I was like, I would love to have a body like that. Absolutely love to have a body like that. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? So the more I kept on scrolling through the pages, I saw like people doing press ups and pull ups and running. And I was looking at a little bit of nutrition and I was like, I can do that. So I went home the next day, set up a little training program for myself in my room. And then I was running a few days a week. And then I was looking at my nutrition. It wasn't anything too serious. I was just cleaning up a few things. I was adding more vegetables into my food plans. So that went really, really well for a while. And I did that for, I'd say, about maybe 8 months, something like that. And then I just started taking over my life. It went from 3 days to 4 days to 5 days, and then it was literally every single day. And I'd say about a year and a half later, this is when I fell into this anorexia problem. I didn't know what anorexia was, never heard of it. But I was losing weight really, really quick on a week-to-week basis, on a month-to-month basis. And people were looking at me and saying, "Geez, you don't look good. What's wrong with you?" But I didn't see it. Every time I looked in the mirror, I was convinced I was still overweight. Until we went on a family holiday, and back then we didn't have any remote controls to switch the TV. So I remember getting off the chair to switch the channels on the TV, and that's all I remember. Apparently, I fainted for 5 minutes. I was out for 5 minutes, And in that 5 minutes, my heart had stopped. I was told my heart stopped.
Jeez.
When I woke up, the doctors were there was two doctors looking after me, and I had no idea, no idea. My mother and father were crying in the background. I was like, "What are you crying for?" And I was told when I went into the hospital, your heart had stopped for 5 minutes.
Wow.
So they brought me into the hospital. This was in a foreign country, and they put me on a weighing scales straight away. I think it was 44 or 45 pounds, about
Wow.
just under.
Jeez.
I was very,
So
very
what's
low
that?
in weight.
About 4 stone.
And I would have been around 14, maybe 13, 14 at the time.
Wow.
So they brought me in and they were telling my parents, like, listen, he won't be going home. He'll be in here. We're gonna do his rehab in here. So that was fine. My mother decided to stay back with me, and they told me the situation that I'd have to eat every couple of hours. So these people were bringing in foods. They put me on a drip. Now, I don't know if you know much about anorexia, but when you're dealing with someone who has an anorexia problem, you've got a massive fear of food. Terrified, absolutely terrified. You have this guilt every time you eat. So when you put food in front of me, it wasn't going to be eaten, because at this stage now, I was starving myself pretty much. So every time you gave me food, it was getting thrown in the bin. And I was doing that for a couple of days, about 3 or 4 days, until one night, I was asleep. This is around 10 o'clock at night time, and my mother came in and she grabbed my hands, and she literally cried while I was asleep. And I just caught her in the glimpse of my eye, crying. And then she turned around. She says to me, "We don't want to lose your son."
Yeah.
That's what she said to me. The minute she said that to me, I was like, okay, I don't want to see my mother crying here. I better do something about this. So the next day, the doctors came into the room, and I said, right, okay, what do I need to do? You guys are the experts. What do I need to do? So they put the drip on, and then they were feeding me every 2 hours. Now the food that I was being fed back then, I didn't know any better. The food back then was an absolute disgrace. Protein bars, weight gainer shakes,
Yeah.
jelly and ice cream, like just shit bit pretty much. But I didn't know any better because I was at that age. I didn't know anything about nutrition at all. So I just went by what they said. So I put the weight on, but I was putting on unwanted belly fat as well.
Yeah.
So everything went really, really well. Then I got to around 17, 18 years of age. And my mother and father were saying, you're never going through that ever again, ever. So they wanted to build a little bit of discipline into me. They wanted me to put on the weight the right way and to build a bit of muscle. So my dad put me into a rugby school. And these people were the opposite. I went in, they taught me everything about strength training, how to put on weight the right way. And I was like, okay, this is going to be perfect for me. I can't wait. And they did. But it was the opposite. I was getting fed every 2 hours. It was mainly heavy carbohydrate based. And I played rugby at a good level for about 7 years. Good, a really, really good level. And when I started off, I was maybe around 150, about 150 pounds, maybe a bit lower. When I came out of rugby, I had gained over 100 pounds in weight.
Wow, that's pretty much double your body weight then.
Yeah. So I think my heaviest, was around 19, maybe 20 stone at one stage.
Wow. And 20 stone in good shape, or 20 stone of?
Oh no, like I was a scrum half, so I had the belly. I wouldn't be able to run around the pitch that long. 10 minutes would have been. I was very powerful. Like when I walked into the gym, I could lift a lot of weight. I had an unbelievable power, unbelievable strength. But my God, my fitness levels weren't good at all. I was walking up the stairs, I was out of breath. And not only that, I was very aggressive, because every time we went on the pitch, we would have been on around 400 milligrams of caffeine before we stepped on the pitch. So we were like animals. And by the time the game was over, we used to go out to clubs and pubs, and we used to start fights. No, for no particular reason. We used to just start on people. I was in trouble with the police so many times you wouldn't believe.
Can you just explain from a psychological perspective? 'Cause I'm thinking of people watching that don't understand addiction. I mean, I can't relate. I've known people that have had addiction issues, but I've never had them myself, so I can't necessarily relate. But to the psychology that something is bad for you, the answer is quite simple, in the sense of, if you're anorexic, the answer is quite simple, which is to eat food. But the fact that psychological state you're in, just like, the smoker that gets diagnosed with something knows all they have to do is stop smoking, but they find that the most difficult thing to do. I think from the outside looking in, people find that very difficult to understand. Could you explain a little bit? So when you're in the hospital at that point, you're turning away food, you're still refusing to eat, but you've already had the situation where your heart stopped, this isn't going very well for your health, but you're still not eating the food. What's the what kind of state are you in mentally to still do that?
Oh, I'm in a really, really bad way. Like I always say to people, if you've got an addiction problem, you have to realize you have this problem in the first place. There's no point in me saying to you, okay, listen, Jaymie, you've got an addiction to alcohol or whatever, because you're always going to be the one that's saying to me, okay, you're just going to deny it. You're always going to deny. You're going to say there's nothing wrong with me. Like every time you speak to someone who has an addiction, what did they always say? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. And I was in the same situation when I was under eating and I was overeating. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. But it wasn't until, okay, hang on a second, that split moment when my mother was right beside me, that's when the penny dropped. Or when I was severely overweight, when I couldn't even walk. I couldn't even walk up the stairs. I was like, this is not right here. Like I shouldn't be able to do this. Like I'm only 5'3". So 5'3" and you're carrying like nearly 20 stone in weight. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, that
you
is.
know what I mean? It
fair,
really is. So it's like I think people don't realize they have a problem until they actually realize it themselves. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I was going to say I'm apparently overweight on my BMI at the moment, and I'm only 200 pounds, and I'm 6'5". So that to be 250 and
BMI, don't
5'3" is
talk to me.
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Don't talk to me about BMI. It's an
Oh, I
unbelievably
know.
crazy marker.
I know BMI is it's ridiculous, isn't it, for many people? So at the point that you're at your heaviest, then when you started when you're playing rugby, what was the starting point then where you thought, right, this can't continue? I'm carrying around too much weight, like you say. I'm climbing the stairs. I'm getting out of breath. I'm starting to feel that this isn't working particularly well for my health. What was the next stage?
The next stage, I came out of that and I was like, okay, how do I lose weight the right way? So that's when I went on and done my own PT certification. I went to a PT course and studied everything about training and nutrition. So I did that for 2 years. So I learned a lot about myself, and I could get in shape no problem, easily, even when I was looked after by the coaches. So I knew I had a good background on how to get in shape because I was watching the other guys get in shape very, very easy. So I knew how to do it. The problem I had was I could never sustain it. I could never do it over a period of time. And I've done every diet that you can possibly think of. I've done carb backloading, I've done paleo, I've done vegan, I've done, you name it, I've done it. And I always said to myself, carbohydrates just don't agree with me for some reason. They just don't agree with me. They, like, for some reason, it makes me feel ill. I have these mental health issues. My energy's not great. It messes up my digestive system. And I just didn't feel good. And then the experts kept on saying to me, it's all in your head. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy. You need your carbohydrates. So I was just going off what the experts were telling me. But I always knew they just didn't agree with me at all. Just didn't. And then I just came across, I fell into keto by accident because I actually removed the carbohydrates out altogether. And at this stage, I was just eating proteins and fiber and very, very little fats. But the fats I was having were peanut butter, almond butter, dark chocolate, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't having a little bit of olive oil as well, coconut oil also. But I wasn't having a large portion, not a large portion of fat whatsoever, because I always thought, in my mind, we were always taught that too much fat is going to lead to heart disease, going to lead to high cholesterol. So that's the reason why I just ate proteins and vegetables. So I did that, and I was in amazing shape. But again, I didn't feel good. Just didn't feel good at all. My energy was crap. My digestive issues were rubbish. I was bloated. I was walking around gassy all the time. Just something wasn't right. And I refused to go down the medication route. I was like, there's no way. Because at this stage, I was coaching people. And I was like, if I'm able to coach people to be healthy and to lose weight, I should be able to figure this out myself. I should be able to figure it out myself. And I refused to go down that route. And at that stage, my mental health was really, really bad, like really, really bad. And I remember speaking to my missus one night. I said, listen, I think you're better off without me. I think you're better off with it. Our daughter was only 4 years of age at the time, and I told her, I said, listen, I think you're better off without me. So she said, we'll go to bed and we'll sleep on it. So I went to bed, couldn't sleep. I woke up an hour later, jumped into my car. I was going through an awful lot of emotional pain, unbelievable emotional pain. And I was on the M50, and I was doing around maybe about 150 in the car, probably faster. And all I could think about was, if I speed this car up as fast as it'll go and just hit a pole head on, this pain will be gone. All of it will be gone. So I put my foot down, and I was fully intent on going to do it. I was about 2 minutes away from hitting the pole. 2 minutes. And I'd say about 10 seconds into when I was ready to go for it, I heard this voice in my head. It was my daughter. Please don't do it, Daddy. Hand on my heart, that's no word of a lie. Don't do it, Daddy. I pulled the car over, I put my head in the steering wheel, and I cried for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I said, please, God, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Tell me what I have to do. So I went back, didn't tell her. You know, us men are like, we just say, well, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. So I said, I'll deal with it. Didn't speak to her at all for about 3 months. Came across this podcast. This bodybuilder was speaking about carnivore. Never carried a carnivore in my life, ever. And the more I kept on hearing his story resonated with mine. And I was like, I'm going to give it a go. I'm just going to give it a go. I did it for 3 days. My energy levels went up. My gut issues were gone. I just felt incredible. Can't explain it. I just felt absolutely incredible. So I said, right, I'll give it another week. Got even better. 2 weeks, got even better. So I said, right, I'm going to do it for another month. If this is doing amazing things for me, I'm going to start coaching this. I'm going to start coaching full time. So after a month, it just got even better. Amazing. So I stepped away from my career in coaching, online stuff, and I studied this for 8 months non-stop. About 5 hours a day I was studying this. Everything.
Wow.
From autoimmune, from mental illness, brain health, you name it, the whole lot. I did it all. Fertility, everything. And I took on my first clients for free. This lady was a relative. She was a type 2 diabetic. She was on a list of medication. She was severely overweight. Took this woman on for 3 months. Within 8 weeks, we reversed her type 2 diabetes. Gone. No more. All gone. Within 10 weeks, she was off her medication. Within 12 weeks, she lost over 65 pounds in weight without any effort whatsoever. It was all diet related. We didn't even have her in the gym in the first 6 weeks because she was a bus driver. And she was able to lose the weight, reverse most of her symptoms, and now she's pain free. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So yeah, that's what I've been doing now, and I've been carnivore now 6 years, and I've been coaching this way now for 6 years.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because carnivore is something that's very much emerged in the last sort of 5 years in terms of, you know, a lot more athletes and people with large accounts on particularly Instagram are talking about it, and it's had a lot more eyeballs on it. Do you think it's something that is a short term, like a really good elimination diet? Because like you said, by cutting out carbs, you can certainly, you know, limit certain things from those, and also you're only eating certain foods. So if other foods are disagreeing with you, it's quite a good elimination diet to then reintroduce other foods. Or do you think this is something that is sustainable? So for you, for example, you say 6 years. Do you plan on doing this indefinitely?
I'll be doing this now for the rest of my life. The way I see it is, I'm actually looking forward to my 60s, my 70s, and 80s. Whereas if you had spoke to me 10 years ago, I would have been very, very worried about my 50s and 60s, because I would have thought, okay, I'm going to struggle with dementia, I'm going to struggle with my mental health, my brain health. But I know I'm going to be thriving now for the next 40 years. I know I am. So
see, that's such a fascinating area.
So honestly, it's incredible, because I think what we hear about a quick fix, that's where we're all going wrong. Everybody wants that quick fix.
Yep, I agree.
Whereas everybody just wants to we're all focusing on body image. We're not focusing on long-term health, and we're not talking about what's optimal and what isn't. And at the end of the day, no matter which way you look at it, carbohydrates, no matter what anybody else tells you, do not belong in a human diet. Period. Because we can rely on fats for energy.
Yep. especially if you're trying to lose weight, you've obviously got a lot of fat stored, which you can use for
Yeah,
energy.
you can use, but
Um,
the thing is, like with carbohydrates, unless it's from a body composition standpoint, give me one reason why I need to eat carbohydrates.
yeah, makes sense. And I think when you look at the animal kingdom, you look at the animals like lions and you know the very lean animals that just eat meat versus the animals that eat herbs and plants. You know, a good one always people always use would be hippos and rhinos, elephants, things like that. They're
Yeah,
carrying a lot more body fat,
yeah.
whereas a lion is just lean, mean,
Hmm.
ready to go, isn't it? And they don't eat herbs, they don't eat plants, don't eat anything like that. Um, there's two things I'd really love to dive into. One of which is you alluded to there, which is how much food impacts your mood. Because I think that's something that people probably don't necessarily relate unless you're really in touch with your body. And I think again, this is we could go down a rabbit hole just on this, on how our eating habits have changed now, where people are eating while watching TV, they're eating at their desk at work, they're not necessarily as present when they're eating their food, and therefore not maybe as connected to how that food's making them feel.
Hmm.
For me, I always make sure that I eat while doing nothing else, so you kind of have that opportunity to let your food settle. And just from personal experience, I know if I have something with high carbs, which I don't have very often, but if I had pasta or rice or bread or something, I feel awful
Hmm.
afterwards. I remember having lunch at my desk previously and been sat there thinking I feel depressed, like
Yeah.
half an hour after I've had a carb meal and nothing's happened apart from eating
Hmm.
that meal.
Hmm.
Do you think that people put, you know, you mentioned mental health issues there. Do you think people put those down to other things when in fact it can be food related?
I honestly believe it's down to food related. I honestly believe, because at the end of the day, that's the one thing you can control. Of everything that's going on in your personal life, the one thing you always have control of is what goes into your body. So that's the way I'd be looking at it. I'd be looking at, okay, well, hang on, before we start looking at other stuff. What are you putting into your body first?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think most people just see food as something they do 3 times a day. They don't put much thought into it. They don't put much thought into how they feel afterwards, which I think
Mm.
if you're going to figure out what diet works for you, like you were saying, carbohydrates just never sat right with you. You're only going to figure that kind of stuff out if you're actually listening to your body, aren't you?
Absolutely. That's what I mean. At the end of the day, you're the research. You're the evidence. You know what I mean? You're basically your own experiments. You have to go off how you feel. If you feel absolutely incredible going on a fat adapted
Yeah.
diet, and you like nobody can argue. How can anybody argue against that? Everybody can go on about the carnivore diet and say how dangerous it is and all this rubbish, but you're the experiment here. You're the research. You're the evidence. So this is what I just don't understand. People are saying to
Yeah.
me that this diet is going to lead to a heart attack. I've had three CAC scans in the last couple of years. Guess what number they came up on? Zero. Zero.
That's the thing. Your body is constant. I remember doing a video about this a couple of years ago that your body is always sending you signals and messages, and if you ignore them when they're subtle, they'll just get louder and louder and louder until you can't ignore them eventually, and you'll drop down. Like you
Yeah.
know what happened with you that night changing over the television. Your body will send you such a message that you're forced to react. And if you're feeling good, if you're feeling vibrant, you're feeling happy, you're feeling
Hmm.
fresh, and you're strong in the gym, you've got good energy, you're
Yeah.
sleeping well, your mental clarity is there. Who is a doctor that spent a week roughly doing nutrition in a 7-year PhD to tell you that you're doing the wrong thing when, you know, I'm sure we can both relate to going into places like the NHS and other mainstream health establishments, and the doctors, the nurses, none of them look particularly healthy.
No.
None of them would probably do particularly well on a body fat scale.
No. And when you look at what's going on in the world now with type 2 diabetics, okay, they go into the hospital, you've been put on metformin or whatever the case is, you go in and get your
Yeah.
surgery done. Let's say you're getting a leg taken off or a toe taken off, and you've gotten the surgery. What do they feed you after the surgery?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's criminal.
exactly.
It's absolutely
It is.
criminal. It's an absolute
You should get
disgrace.
the best, most nutritious food while in hospital,
Yeah,
surely.
100%. And I've had this conversation with these doctors. Like we lost our parents 2 years, 3 years ago to cancer, and I spoke to the doctors because I knew about this space. I knew an awful lot about this space, and I asked the doctor a simple question. I asked him, "Do you know what cholesterol is?" He told me there's good and bad. The minute he said that to me, I knew we're in deep shit.
Yeah, cholesterol is a really fascinating area. So let's dive into that a bit, because cholesterol people have been, it ties into the whole, people being afraid of fats and being conditioned to be afraid of fats. Because obviously you're told you have LDL cholesterol, which is bad, HDL cholesterol, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember reading a really interesting study a long time ago, which actually concluded the life expectancy of people with higher LDL cholesterol, considerably higher, sometimes over
Mm-hmm.
double what they recommend. They actually had a better longevity in terms
Yeah.
of life expectancy than
Mm-hmm.
people at the lower end, which
Yeah.
completely diffuses the argument, of course. And also I remember that a study to do with how the brain and neuro pathways obviously communicate using fat. So there was a correlation between low cholesterol and depression,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a very, very interesting area to explore. What's your take on cholesterol? Do you believe cholesterol is as a myth in its entirety? So there's no such thing as too high, or do you think there's a balance?
Well, let me ask you a question. Okay, every single one of us are on a low-fat diet at the moment. You walk into a shop, what do you see? It's
Yeah,
all
low fat
marketing
everything. Yeah.
towards low fat. Are we in a better situation at the moment where our health are worse?
Oh, absolutely worse. Absolutely worse.
Okay, so that proves the point. That's not working. Simple,
Yep, that would make
simple as
sense.
that. It's
That
as
would make
simple
sense.
it's as simple as that. When we were told to bring our fats down, and these were allowed to replace these fats with sugars, there's when we all struggled. Okay, because when you look at what they replaced it with, they replaced it with seed oils. Okay, what are we
Yeah,
consuming in
seed
our
oils.
foods now? It's all the processed food that we're eating at the moment is littered in seed oil. And we're told by the experts there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this whatsoever. And they have no idea how harmful these foods are. No idea whatsoever. Have you ever seen how seed oil is made?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's something that if most people could see how that is made, they would not go anywhere near it, let
Nowhere
alone
near.
think it's the healthy
No.
alternative.
And then when
I
we
mean,
look at cholesterol, see, people need to understand this. It's not cholesterol on its own that's the problem. It's what you mix with the cholesterol is what's the problem. So I'll give you an example. When we look at red meat has been demonized for years. You need to limit your red meat, only eat 1 or 2 portions a week. But what's happening is it was never the red meat on its own. Do you have chips with that red meat? Do you have alcohol with that red meat? Do you have a baked potato with that red meat? Pasta. That's the problem right there. When you're having your eggs in the morning, are you having it with toast, glass of orange juice, piece of fruits? That's the problem right there. It's not the fats on its own. Where you can look at any study you want, saturated fat on its own was never the cause of heart disease ever.
do you think that the carnivore diet is something that works for everyone, or do you think there is
No, I mean
differences?
this is what I always say. I actually moved into carnivore because I had an addiction problem. So this is when you get to carnivore, that's kind of like the fountain of youth kind of thing. So I always say to people, you need to go in the same direction I went in. So you need to eliminate the processed food first of all, listen to your body, get some feedback. At this stage, you're eating the complex carbohydrates, the fruits, the vegetables, and the lean source of protein. So again, you're getting feedback from people. How do you feel? Yeah, I look good, but I don't feel good. Okay, maybe we might have to move you out of there. We might need to get rid of the carbohydrates, vegetables, add more fat into the diet, proteins. How do you feel? Yeah, I'm feeling okay, but I still have those digestive issues. At this stage, they're around 12 weeks into the program, 12 to 14 weeks. At this stage, they trust you because they've seen the progression. They've lost the weight, they feel good. At that stage, they might need to go full carnivore, and then you'll get the feedback from them. Now, if they're getting back to you and saying, "Well, this is perfect for me. This is the optimal way for me to eat," you can't argue against that. But there are people in the space that can tolerate vegetables, and there are people in the space that can tolerate fruits, and there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, you have to find what works best for you. It's
When you
it's a,
say
it's
tolerate,
So when I
when
mean
you say
tolerate, well, yeah. So when I mean tolerate, I mean if you're able to, for me personally, if I added in some fruits into my diet right now, that would set me off. Sugar would go to the
right,
brain and say, listen, okay, there's sugar coming in here now. You need more of it. So that addiction will come back straight away.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I can't
yeah.
continue. So it's all about
I mean,
control.
my question about that tolerance was: do you think so? If meat is the foundation and animal fat's the foundation in terms of getting your nutrients and micronutrients into the body, if you're having fruits and vegetables on top of that and your body's not having a negative impact, like you just described you would have, do you think there is any benefit to it though? Do you think there's any nutrients in those fruits and vegetables that could be of
No,
benefit, or is it just filler?
no, you're gonna get all the nutrition you need from just meat alone. You're not gonna
Right.
get
Okay.
you're not gonna get any nutrition, because when you look at the fruit and vegetables that we're eating currently at the moment, it's not the same as what it was 100 years ago. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at what's sprayed on our vegetables. I mean, you look at a strawberry. 100 years ago, a strawberry would have been about that size. The strawberry's that size now. You know what I mean? So you need to look at it and say, well, hang on a second. Look at our vegetables. They're in packets. It could have been
Yeah.
there for 6 months, 8 months, a year. You know what I mean? You see what they're doing to our food system at the moment. They're trying to get rid of meat and bring in more lab-based meats.
100%
It's
fake meat.
scary.
You'll eat the bugs and be happy as they want.
Yeah, I've said to many people, if that comes in, I'm going to the own into the mountains. I don't care what the vegans say. I'll be killing my own animals.
Oh yeah, off-grid community. That's the way to go if they bring that in.
100%.
And all those people that are pushing world health, with the exception of RFK, who looks in quite good shape, they all don't look like fountains of health themselves. When you look at your Gateses and others, do they?
No,
so I'm not particularly interested in listening to those.
Yeah. And
A question I wanted to ask, because you alluded to it earlier, which I think is really, really important, and it's something that's really frustrated me in the last sort of 5 or 6 years since I've been in this space, is how people correlate fitness and health being the same thing. So they see this bodybuilder, like you mentioned, that's got the 8-pack, got 5% body fat, looks great, but they're pushing microwave foods, they're pushing protein bars, they're pushing the synthetic whey proteins, Huel drinks and things like that are full of hundreds of ingredients, most of which aren't even real. And people think that's what health means. And somebody that looks good means they must be healthy, versus somebody who maybe has got 15% body fat and they think actually, well, they're not as healthy as them, when they might be eating your steaks, your eggs, your avocados, your raw milks and things like that, and really taking better care of themselves. How much do you think that the fitness industry has infiltrated the health industry, and people put them together when they can go hand in hand, of course, but a lot of the time they don't?
No, they don't go hand in hand, because that's where we're going at the moment. It's just all about body image. And when you look, because I was one of these people, this is how I used to market myself. I used to take my top off, and I used to do lots and lots of reels and lots of videos and lots of pictures. And this is how I was getting clients. But I was actually a phony. I was actually a fake, because I was able to get these people in shape, but I wasn't looking after them. I wasn't looking after their health at all. So when they used to get back to me and say to me, Mark, I'm getting in shape, or I'm a type 2 diabetic now, or I've got issues with fatty liver disease, or I've got issues with arthritis, or like I have all these back pains, knee pains. I hadn't got a clue. I was like, okay, you need to go and see your doctor. You might need, if you have a gut issue, you might need to go and see a dermatologist or a dietitian. They'll be able to look after you. And I did. I said it to them many, many times. And they went to these people, and the issue never got resolved, ever. I used to get back to these people and say, okay, what are you doing now then? Oh, I'm on this medication. The doctor has me on this medication. And I was like, okay, for years and years and years, I always used to question, okay, why do you need to be on medication to be healthy?
Yeah.
Why? Like, I don't, and I always used to walk into a supplement shop, and I used to always ask the same question: why do I need these supplements to be healthy? You know what I mean? Like these protein bars and all this stuff. And I was like, surely I can do this myself. Surely. So that's where I just think we're going wrong at the moment. Nobody understands true health. It's all about body image. We all know we can get in shape. It's very, very easy to get in shape. The problem is, can you stay in shape for the rest of your life? Not many people can.
No, well, that's something that you've mentioned a couple of times, which is lifestyle. There is no quick fix. And I think lots of people around about in a month's time, late March, will start looking at their summer holiday dates and think, oh, I better go on that 8-week crash diet. They'll come back, and by the end of September, they're probably the same weight, if not heavier than they were.
Put the weight back on, yeah. And then when you look at,
it's not a lifestyle.
No, and then when you look at what the solution is at the moment, everybody's struggling with food now. As we have a massive obesity crisis, I'm pretty sure these people would have went to see PTs in the past. They would have been on the low calorie diets. These PTs would have done everything possible to help these people. Look at Oprah. Oprah only spoke about this a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure she had the best dietitians in the world looking after her, and not one of them could solve this problem. And she ended up on Ozempic. I mean, just think
Yeah.
about that for a second. You had Serena Williams, a tennis star, same problem. She played tennis all her life. She came out about a year ago. She said she struggled with her food. She couldn't understand why. She couldn't understand why she had this up and down relationship with her weight. Couldn't understand it. And I'm pretty sure she had dietitians and trainers looking after her.
Oh, she'd have
Were,
had the best
yeah.
nutritionists going, wouldn't she?
So it just proves to you that these people are just clueless. Absolutely clueless, because they're all focusing on the same. They're all trained in on the same system. Everybody's just
Yeah.
focusing on body image, low calorie diets, low fat diets, high protein, carbohydrates in moderation. Doesn't work, guys. Doesn't work. We've been doing it for years. It's not working. If it worked, everybody wouldn't be struggling at the moment, and that's a fact.
No, I agree. I think the calories argument is a really, really damaging one, because, you could hold up a steak that's got 500 calories in it, and for that you could eat a bunch of chocolate, and people think that's okay. I've eaten the same amount of calories, but one's going to do so much damage for your body versus one's going to give it so much substance. And I think why when you were talking about supplements a minute ago and walking into a supplement shop and why you need them, I don't think enough people look at food as fuel, look at food as, right, this is something that I'm not just eating to be full and not hungry. It's something I'm eating to actually get nutrition, something I'm eating to actually get various different things my body needs. In the same principle you would put petrol in your car, because without the petrol it's not going to move. I think if more people looked at their diet with that mindset, you wouldn't want to put the rubbish in it. If you've got a nice car, you're not putting vegetable oil in it. You put in
100%.
good petrol in it because you want it to run well. And I think with our bodies, it's the most expensive and valuable gift we're ever going to own.
Yeah.
And so many people, do you think it's education, or do you think it's a little bit of mindset and people perhaps not giving themselves the self-respect to take care of themselves as much as they should? Or do you think it's a lack of education as to what good food is, or a combination of both, I guess?
No, I think it's a lack of education. At the end of the day, we've been listening to one voice now for how long? We've been listening to the same voice now for, Jesus, well over 50 years, maybe 100 years. Whereas now we have the likes of ourselves now that are coming out, and we're actually questioning things. And that's why I love having these conversations with these people. I love having these people on my podcast, so I can actually speak to them directly, because they can't read any research. They can't go off any computer. They have to answer me directly. So if I ask you a question, you've got to answer me straight away. And I've seen
100%.
many, many times that these people are panicking, like, oh, I don't know how to answer this. I don't know how to answer this. That's when you know they're full of shit.
Because they've got skin in the game.
Exactly. So whereas if you're doing text messages, they can go on to ChatGPT, they can go on to Google and look for the answers. Because when I ask them a question, it's usually 24 hours later before I get the answer. What does that tell you? So they've done their research and then they'll text me back the answer. But they won't be able to do that if they're speaking with me directly, because I will ask you those questions and I'll expect an answer very, very quickly. And if I don't get that answer, I know that you're not in it for the right reasons. You're in this for the wrong reasons. You're in this to make money, to feed off people's sickness, and I'm not having that. I'm not having that, because at the end of the day, I've been in this game now 6 years. I have dealt with over 200 people in that 6 years. Now, I'm not talking about getting these people in shape. I'm talking about women that have come on board, told me, Mark, I want to have a family. I want to have a baby. These were told that you're never going to have a baby unless you go down IVF. Do you know how heartbreaking that is?
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
Okay, it's disgraceful. I take these women on. I say, just trust me. Just come on board with me for at least 6 months. Just let's see what happens, right? 6 months. I put them on a high-fat diet. Within 4 months, 3 to 4 months, I have many, many messages to prove this. Mark, I'm going to have a baby. Brings tears to my eyes. You know what I mean? You know how amazing that is. No, I'm not a doctor. Never claimed once to be a doctor. Never once. I've had a parent reach out to me on many, many occasions that their daughters are going through, they have endometriosis. They're in severe period pain. We're talking about the pain level is like 10 out of 10, like really, really high. These women, these kids are on the floor. I've had these parents send me videos of their kids on the floor screaming in pain, and they're on the waiting list for 2 years to be seen. 2 years. And I say, listen, forget about that. Your daughter's going to work with me for a couple of months. Just let her work with me for a few months. We sort out the diet. Eventually, I have her on a high-fat diet. That pain threshold has gone from 10 to 2 within 6 to 10 weeks. I mean, explain that to me.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. By mainstream description, you can't explain it.
And then when I put these people on social media and I'm like, okay, listen, like what I said about the experiments. These people are the evidence. You can throw all this bullshit research what you want at me about endometriosis. It cannot be cured. All this crap. Couldn't care less. You speak to that lady right here and you tell her it can't be cured. You tell her that we can't manage it. You tell a type 2 diabetic that you cannot cure this. You're going to have this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
How? It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. So what I would say is this, that if you're one of these people that you're struggling, remember this, don't give up on yourself. Go out there and do the research. Listen to these podcasts. I've never once said to people, you need to do this. Never. I've just said, just try it. Just try it for a couple of weeks. And if you don't know how to do it, then you need to hire a coach. It's that simple. And if it changes your life and you get the results that you want, you look amazing, you feel amazing, you've got better energy, it just improves your life. Like I've had men come to see me in their 30s. They have no sex life anymore. Their testosterone is on the ground, literally on the ground. 30s. And I'm like, this is not right.
Yeah, that's common now. That's really common now. The average 30-year-old man has less testosterone than a World War II veteran.
It's unbelievable. And I'm looking and they're talking to me, and I'm seeing these people in the gym every single day. They're working themselves into the ground. Then you look at the diet, it's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Yeah. They're drinking the orange, they're drinking the juice during their workouts, and I'm like, listen, your lifestyle is a mess. If you want to improve this, there's a few things that need to be worked on. And then there's like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. What do I need to do? And I'm like, okay, we need to eliminate the carbohydrates. I can't do that. And I'm like, well, that's what you need to do. Okay, you're not going to know until you eliminate them for a while, and then let's see what happens to your body. Now, if your body functions the way it's meant to function, then why would you go back to the carbohydrates?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way I see it. You have to experiment this on yourself first. You're the one that's going to know whether it works or it doesn't work. But when I say you need to give it a go, you need to give it a go for a minimum 12 to 15 weeks. If you're only going to do it for 6 weeks and you're looking for a quick fix, it's not going to work, because at the end of the day, you have to heal your body first. And if you've done a lot of damage to your body over the years from the amount of crap that you fed it, if you think that that's going to be fixed in 6 weeks, it's not going to happen. You're in cuckoo land.
So do you have the same diet? So for your specific diet, do you have the same diet every day, or do you experiment with different meats, or have you found a routine or a recipe now that works for you and you just stick to it?
Every day I just eat red meat. Every day. Ribeye. My diet at the moment is ribeye, ground beef tallow, and maybe sometimes I'll have a few eggs, but it's mainly red meat. I'd say about 98% of my diet now is red meat.
And have you found that do you eat less than you used to, or do you eat just as much? You should eat it purely with meat.
No, I'll give you an example. Like I competed in a bodybuilding competition 6 years ago, and if we're going by calories, I don't talk about calories because I think it's a wrong metric to look at. But if we're looking at calories, I was eating maybe around 1,400, maybe around 1,200 calories before I stepped on stage, and I was very, very lean. I was around 3% body fat. I was shredded. 6 years later, I've done a reverse diet, and I've been doing a reverse diet ever since. And I'm putting away now maybe 4,500 a day calories. I'm probably putting away around maybe 5 pounds of meat a day, easily.
Wow. That sounds an expensive diet these days, to be fair.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm spending maybe around 300 quid a week on my food alone.
Wow. Well, for someone listening, that would be a barrier to entry for them, wouldn't it? So is there any tricks and ways that they can, if somebody spends, let's say someone spends, I think the average for a family of four is around £150 a week
Mhm.
now, because of all the crap food that's out there that's very, very cheap and easily accessible. What would you advise for somebody in that position? Is there a
Well, for
way that
me,
they can do it quite cheaply?
because for me, like 6 years ago, I hadn't got money at all. I was struggling, and all I lived on pretty much was sardines, eggs, and ground beef. And I was spending 60 quid a week on food, and that done me for the week. When we talk about hunger, I was never hungry at all eating these foods. Never. I was eating twice a day, and there was no need for snacks or have to eat an extra meal a day. I was eating 2 meals a day, and I was full. And as I said, 60 quid a week. That was it. And I was living off 14 meals a week.
Yeah.
So it's very, very affordable. Very, very affordable.
Yeah, I can relate to the sugar part of it in terms of you feeling that you need food quickly when you have a low sugar, high fat diet. One meal and you're fine for the day, or certainly fine for a good few hours. Like for me, I eat about 10:30, and then I don't eat till 5:30, and I don't have any need to snack in between. Whereas, like you say, most people that have dinner and an hour later they're in the cupboard, whether it's for chocolate, crisps, biscuits, whatever, because that spike in their glucose has made them feel even more hungry after eating a big meal. You don't get that when you have a high fat diet, do you? It
Exactly.
seems
And
to
yeah, and see,
satiate them.
that's where the sugar comes from. Like when you have sugar in the diet, you're going to get these regular insulin spikes. But people will say to you, okay, if you just remove the processed foods, then you're going to be able to you're going to be able to control those insulin levels. But people don't realize that sugar is sugar regardless where you get it from. And people don't understand that actually carbohydrates turn to sugar when they enter the body. People don't understand this. All carbohydrates turn to sugar when they enter the body. And then when you speak to people, okay, how do we control our insulin from spiking on a regular basis? Then they bring in this rubbish, adding more fiber into the diet. But if fiber is able to slow down the absorption of the carbohydrates and slows down the insulin spikes, would it not be better just to remove the problem in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't make as much profit for Big Pharma, though, does it?
No,
Preventing the
that's what it's
problem.
all about. That's what it's all about. It's all about making these people richer while you're getting sicker. And it's just, I mean,
100%.
as I said, look how much the Ozempic is going to be worth now in the next 5 years. They're talking about over 260 billion to their market.
Yeah. I can't grasp
260
the
billion.
mindset of people that are still taking that with
Yeah.
everyone with that done any research knew before it came out what the impact of it was going to be. But now there's so much evidence, whether it's, the number of gallbladder surgeries, whether it's the number of people having, fertility issues all of a sudden. It's just extraordinary. I mean, anyone that's going to still get this now, what are you doing with your life?
Honestly, it's crazy. We've had a few people on our podcast speaking about it. We had a woman that nearly died, and the
Yeah.
doctors actually blamed her. They said that you were the one that wanted to lose the weight here, so she almost died, and the doctors were never going to take the blame for it.
No.
It's criminal. And then when you look at what happened to us during COVID, right? Look what happened to us during COVID. All these people were saying they were looking after our health. What were we told to do?
Yep.
Stay indoors. The gyms were closed. We can order takeaway food. We weren't allowed outside in the sunshine. You know what I mean? Think about that for a
Yep.
second.
The
And
gym's closed, but McDonald's
every
is
one of
open.
us were controlled, and we're still controlled.
Yep.
We're still controlled with
100%.
our food. That's the problem. Because the thing is, like, everybody's buying the same food because they're all addicted. They have no idea that, okay, the reason why you're struggling with your health is because you have a food addiction problem. The reason why we hear this noise now about food noise, especially with the obesity crowd, and you'll always see, because I always ask them the question, why couldn't you not stick to a diet? And Mark, I was always hungry, starving, always thinking about food. And I was like, okay, what did you do about it? What did your PT do? Oh, he had me on a low calorie diet. And he had me doing too much cardio. Now you think about it logically. If you're on a low calorie diet and your energy expenditure is high, what's going to happen to your hunger?
Yeah, it's only going to go one way.
So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I was only in a gym there a few months ago, and I couldn't believe it. PT had this woman I'd say she's around 17, 18 stone, running on a treadmill. I was like, this is crazy. This is absolute. And all I wanted to do is walk up to her and say, stop, just stop.
Yeah.
Go on outside, go for a walk, and look at your nutrition. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the
That's it.
thing. PTs have, I mean, I did a PT course about 2 years ago, and all of it is just repeat this, repeat that, repeat this. None of those people that are working in these gyms, with exceptions, obviously the odd one, but the people that are working in the commercial gyms in particular as PTs and fitness trainers and running the classes and stuff, they're just repeating what they've learned on their course. They've not figured, like, you know, completely different to your experience where you figured it out for yourself through a personal experience. Most of them are just repeating what they've been told in exactly the same way the doctors are.
Yeah.
So they have no idea if what they're actually recommending is something of actual benefit. They're essentially looking through their textbook and it's going, oh, this person wants to lose weight, right? Put them on a 500 calorie deficit diet, then get them doing a bit of cardio, and that's literally it, black and white. When it is so far from reality.
And like I said at the beginning, I qualified as a PT and a nutritionist like over 30 years ago. Guess where those certs are now? Straight in the bin.
Yeah, in the
They're
bin.
gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're gone. I don't use them anymore now. I don't call myself a PT anymore. I call myself a health coach now because I know exactly what I'm doing because I've proved it many times.
Yeah, there's a big difference as we've discussed through the episode. You can get somebody looking great in their holiday snaps, but being incredibly unhealthy.
And see, the thing is, and like you said, like what you see is not a true reflection because visceral fat is the most important issue here. Yeah. Your visceral fat around your organs, your liver, your heart, that's what we should be focusing on. So when you get blood work, this is why I always ask for blood work when I work with people. I need to see your triglycerides. I need to see your fasting insulin. I need to see how high your insulin is. If someone's a type 2 diabetic, I'll get these people to wear a CGM. Like this is all data. You need data so you can actually work with these people. But when I get the blood work done, that's when you know how healthy these people are. That's when you know. That's when you really know.
Yeah, 100%. I do it once a year, and it's a fantastic insight into what you're doing. Fantastic insight into what you're doing, whether you're doing the right thing or not. And it explains a lot, doesn't it? You know, when you get that blood work and you're like, this level's slightly lower. Have you been experiencing these kind of symptoms? And, you know, you can explain why you've been feeling a certain way and tweak and adapt your diet accordingly. Yeah. You don't get any of that from a PT.
Yeah, because I've had people come to see me when their triglycerides were over 200, like really, really high. Like we're talking about hypoglycemic problem here, like really, really high. And the doctor would turn around and say, forget about that, your cholesterol's too high. So he wouldn't even look at that marker.
Yeah.
He'd be focusing on the cholesterol. So he wants to put you on a statin straight away. But the main problem is not the cholesterol, it's actually your triglycerides. And he completely ignores it. Just pure ignorance.
Well, they're just reading their textbook as well, aren't they? They don't actually know anything for themselves. They're simply repeating what they've been told.
Yeah.
But I think we're definitely moving into an area where people are more conscious and interested in their health, which I think is only a good thing. People are more conscious and aware of where their food comes from. Like when I go, I'm fortunate. I live in the middle of the countryside, and I've got within sort of 10 minutes in any direction about 3 or 4 different farm shops where I go and get meat and eggs and so on. A raw milk farm, which is great, and they're always busy. You know, they weren't 5 years ago. Now you go in, there's always a queue. There's always people buying food directly from the butchers as well, rather than in the supermarket. So I think people are getting more conscious of where their food's coming from. I think, which is fantastic. I think that's only a good thing.
I think so as well. I think it's because of the likes of yourself speaking about it, myself speaking about it. I think people are actually catching on. I think people are actually they're listening and they're like, this actually probably makes a lot of sense, because I'm seeing it now in my local supermarket. Like years ago, red meat was still on the shelves. Now it's flying off the shelves. You know what I mean? And I remember when I used to walk into my local supermarket like 6 years ago, I used to pick up the ground beef that was 18% fat, because I picked it up because it was so cheap, because nobody was buying it. Everybody was buying the lean sources like with no fat in it whatsoever. I've noticed in the last 6 years, these are flying off the shelf. They're flying off the shelf now. So
Yeah,
I think
I think
people
it's
are, I think people are realizing, I think people are looking at it and saying, well, I've been doing this now a while now. I've been doing these low calorie diets now a while. Something's not right. And probably what he's saying actually makes sense. I'm just going to give it a go. Like I did. I just gave it a go and it just changed my life. Changed my life. And that's why I like doing these reels. I do a reel every day. Somebody sends me a video and they want me to call out somebody on social media. And they just watch it. And then they start asking me questions. And then they go back to their PT and say, listen, you need to watch this video. You need to watch it. You need to watch what this guy is saying, because he makes a lot more sense than you do, because you've never been able to control my situation. You've never been able to control my mental health issues, my gut issues. I've been listening to this guy for 3 months. I'm not even working with this guy. I just listened to him for 3 months, and now my gut issues are gone. Like,
yeah.
what else? What else you want me to say?
No, I agree. I think people are definitely more and more open-minded to alternatives than the mainstream answers, because the mainstream answers, as you said, they've given them no answers.
No.
It's a lot of money, usually for very little reward, whether that's at
Yeah.
the doctors, at the PT, and the supplement shop. Whereas quite simple changes like you've talked about today can actually have incredible results.
And when you look at the financial situation, again, if you ask the average person how much you spend on processed food, medication, supplements, food, I guarantee it works out a lot every week. I
Yeah,
guarantee
it would
it.
do. Yeah.
So if let's say on average you're spending about 150 quid a week on crap, basically crap and supplements and all that, put it on real food.
Yeah.
Put it on real food and let's see what happens. I guarantee you'll be a different person. You won't, those hunger issues will be gone. You'll be healthier. You'll have more energy. You'll be jumping up out of bed. You know what I mean? You won't have that brain fog anymore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I deal with an awful lot of menopause women, a lot of them, and every single one of them are doing the same thing. They're drastically under eating, big time, and that's actually putting a lot of metabolic stress in the body. A lot of stress. Your body doesn't want to be in that situation. These people want to eat. It's all about you want to eat until you're full. Putting someone in a deficit while you're on menopause is just criminal. It's crazy. And then if you're getting to
Yeah.
do that with extra cardio, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's only going to have a detrimental impact long term. If you're on a diet that you can't wait to break, that's not sustainable.
No.
At
And
all.
if you're thinking about it, okay, I can't wait till this diet's finished. I can't wait till I can't wait till my holidays comes until I can go on holidays and go binging and enjoy myself. You've got a problem.
Yeah.
You've got a problem, and unless you realize you've got a problem, like we spoke at the beginning, you're probably never going to solve your life problem ever, because you have to realize you've got a problem first of all if you want to fix it.
Yeah, completely agree. First way to solving a problem is to admit there is one. It's a famous saying. It's an old one, but it's just as appropriate now as it was when whoever said it for the very first time. That's all we've got time to go into today. I'd love to speak to you again, because one thing we didn't get to mention is the impact of this on children, because it's a fascinating area. I've got 2 young children, and I see everything from the obesity in kids right through to the behavior changes within kids when things like sugar and stuff are introduced. So I'd love to have you back on and dive specifically into that, because that's, I think, an area that a lot of people question when it comes to this subject of carnivore is how do I get my kids on board? How do I avoid the stereotypical kids food of sweets and chocolate and puddings and sugar and
It's
things like
honestly,
that?
James, I'll be honest with you, Jaymie, it's a big issue, because I'm working with a
Yeah.
school at the moment, an ADHD school at the moment. And since I've implemented this way of eating, it's made a huge impact on the kids. Like
Yeah, I can quite believe it.
These kids were all aggressive. They were hitting their mothers. They were smashing things in the homes, like really, really bad, like really, really bad. And I done a talk on this last year, because they watched one of my videos, and I was talking about the brain health, and I was talking about your brain is actually made of fat, and it's actually cholesterol that your child needs. It's not sugar. And they were so fascinated. They were like, okay, can you come in and have a conversation about this? So I came in. I actually switched the whole school menu. I switched the whole thing up. I had these kids drinking whole milk, good nutritious foods, and now the impact has been unbelievable. And these kids would have never been into exercise. you would have really struggled to get them outside doors. Now they're outside playing football, they're outside playing basketball, they're buzzing, they've got so much energy, they've got a new lease of life. So it's huge, it really is. And then when you look how aggressive kids are now, like they're really, really aggressive. You hear them swearing at adults
Yeah.
now. It's unbelievable. It's all down to the food that we're eating. And the thing about it is, when you walk into a shop, a kid can pick up anything these days. I mean, kids are
Yeah.
vaping at 12 years of age now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, smoking, vaping, energy drinks, all the. Oh,
So there's no cut off. What's the government doing about it? Nothing. So it's up to us parents to say, okay, if you guys are not going to control this situation, then we have to.
yep, completely agree.
That's
Well,
it.
let's dive into that next time. It'll be a really fascinating chat that I think a lot of parents will be very, very interested in. Mark, thanks so much for your time. For people that are listening that want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
So just look for my website. My website is called Fitness Beyond Time 01. I'm on all social media. I'm on I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I also run my own podcast on YouTube. It's called the Carnivore Evolution Podcast. And I also do another one. It's called The Meat of the Matter. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I have an email. It's called ennismark93@gmail.com.
Okay, brilliant. We'll put those links in the description, and we'll put those links in the email that we send out for the episode. Thanks so much for joining me again. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks for having me on, Jaymie.
Thank you to you for watching at home, as always. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of this new series. We're going to be back next week. I shall see you then, and good health.